Welcome, friends, to another one of our free Friday community classes. This week, I'm very excited. We are going to be exploring yet another tool of the green art as I practice it, the mortar and pestle. Now, I'm going to give you just a few insights into working with this particular tool, but what I really want the takeaway to be is that with a little intuition and some ingenuity, you can work all the magics, all the rituals with this one simple traditional tool. The applications here are incredibly endless, and there's a lot of power and a lot of potential in working with mortar and pestle. So, mortar and pestle, as a lot of you may know, and this may be a tool that's new to some of you, which is very cool. This is the mortar, this is the pestle. You have a vessel or a containing part, you have a grinding or a gyrating part. So these go together as a set, and generally they are used to grind up herbs, right? So we're putting the plant material into the vessel, and then we're using the pestle to grind and powder and break things up. These come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. I have a ton behind me. Here's another one that I really love. That's just kind of a boat style. So again, a vessel and a pestle, which can be used to sort of scrape and grind. I use this style a lot for resins and gums, pitches, and put that one back. And so on a practical level, the mortar and pestle is a beautiful tool to use to change the consistency of plant material. Now, we can of course run our dried plant material through a coffee grinder or a spice grinder and get an even finer powder. Usually the machines tend to do better than we can, but there is something to be said about doing this work by hand, especially if you will be using that plant material in a ritual working, making a handcrafted incense, making a sachet, making a powder, making a very special medicine blend, right? And it doesn't mean that we have to grind the herb to a talcum fine powder, but just the act of spending some of our time getting in there and transforming that plant material with our own energy, it really mingles our energy with the energy of the herbs, especially if while we are dancing that pestle around and around, usually clockwise, right? Around and around the inside of that mortar, we are keeping a mindset of what it is we're trying to do. We're keeping in mind what the petition is to the plant spirits for our working, whether it's that we're making a special medicine, or we're doing a magical working, or we're preparing those herbs for use in ritual, that we're using that gyration, that turning, that rhythmic dance of the mortar and pestle as almost a type of transcenduction to really drop into an altered state of consciousness where we can flow through our breath or through our thoughts or visualizations with the plant spirits involved, with the plant spirits whose forms are in the mortar, to really lift that magic up. So folks who come from various magical traditions, whether it's ceremonial magic or neo-paganisms and all that, we see time and time again that there are these aspects of casting a circle, of drawing a circle, of opening a circle, and dancing or pacing or spinning around the perimeter of that circle as a way to charge or raise energy, and energy raising, right? Milling. And we are in effect doing that same thing here. Rather than taking our whole body and moving around a circle to raise power, we are moving the pestle intentionally around the inside of the vessel to raise power. So what ends up happening when we do the work with mindfulness, with intent being the power that pierces the hedge, we end up creating quite a nice field of energy here of our working. And that's why I always say this can be a single tool that can accomplish everything. So as that pestle is being driven around and around, and the mind is visualizing the outcome, and the invocation to the plant spirits and the petition to the plant spirits is there, the energy begins to build and build and build until we are left with a buzzing atmosphere that is really concentrated around the vessel and what is inside the vessel. So another way that we can look at this particular tool is that the vessel is receptive, is earthy, and it contains, whereas the pestle is projective, it's more dynamic, and it agitates, right? So we have this coming together of polarities. We have this coming together of two forces that appear to be opposite, but are in effect seeds of one another. And so when we bring them together, we are in a mode of creation or transformation, depending on the state. So without getting into reducing it to gender roles, which is stupid, we can talk about, feminine and masculine qualities that are not wrapped up in societal constructs of those terms. But I really like instead to think in terms of passive and active, or receptive and dynamic, that which holds and that which stirs, right? So these two different forces that come together to create. And so that symbolism is pretty obvious here with the mortar and pestle, and it is very, very powerful. And if we approach this through the right mindset, it allows us to really pull out all of the trappings that get in the way. We see this a lot in ceremonial magic. We see it a lot in original traditions of Wicca and all of that stuff, that we've sort of reduced these powers to male and female. And if the male and female aren't present, then the thing is incomplete, which excludes a whole bunch of people, myself included. So we just don't need to do that. It's unnecessary. It's not how we've done it since time immemorial. So we can quite easily just let all that go. So mortar and pestle, very, very powerful tool. One other aspect to this that I think is very important in our work, that's more ritualized, of recreating the cosmos, entering into a personal state of reciprocity with the wholeness of things, is that we could see the mortar as a symbol for the universe, for all of existence, everything held and contained, right? We can see the symbol of the circle here, that every point on the circle is the same distance from the center, an expression of radical equity. So we have that which contains, and then we have the central axis, which is so big in so many Indo-European magical cultures, that there is a sacred center around which the entire universe revolves, whether that is seen as a mountain, as in the Greek mythos, or a tree, or a pillar, or a stone like the omphalos, or a sacred place, that it kind of acts as the center. So we have that which goes around sort of horizontally, and that which goes through the center vertically. Again, bringing two more layers of polarity together that merge to create a truth, right? Two facts that, when to come together, create a truth. And so that mortar and pestle action, again, as a generative process, usually going clockwise, as a generative process, brings us into alignment with the movement of atoms, the movement of molecules, the movement of the planets, the movement of Earth, the movement of the galaxy, and the sort of conceptualized idea of how the cosmos itself dances. So those minutes spent turning your herbs, grinding your herbs, while physically challenging sometimes, can be a very deep practice, a very deep ritual that not only aligns you, the practitioner, to the ways of the cosmos, but generates such an incredible amount of magical energy that wherever those herbs end up, they are sure to come with a charge of vital force and a clarity of virtue that we want in our work. Again, allow that grinding, allow the sound, the drone that the mortar makes, allow the movement of the body, allow the alignment of the breath to drop you into a trance state during your work, to bring you closer into the presence of the plant spirit or spirits who you have invoked into the mortar, and you will find that your end result is something quite powerful. So, mortar and pestle, be like me, get a huge collection, right? Whenever I'm in thrift stores, whenever I'm in apothecaries and kitchen stores, and I see these, it's almost impossible for me not to bring them home. I have so many. I have a ton here in the shop, of course, that are working, that we actually put miles on, to make the medicines and for me to make special offerings for my clients. I have a bunch at home. I have one that rests on my altar at home, just like this, as a symbol of the cosmos, as a symbol of my work, as a symbol of the traditions of plant medicine that I practice. And one of the really cool things too about the marble, and I'm sure if I do another one again, the soapstone versions, is they are generally pretty affordable. Most mortar and pestles out there, anywhere from, we have some in the shop that are as little as $9, up to $30, $40 for the higher end ones, the heavier ones. So they're a pretty affordable tool. Can have a collection of them for different needs. I do want to show you the one that we use in the shop. This is very heavy. This is granite, and as you can see, it's quite a beefcake. This mortar and pestle has got a lot of miles on it. This is the one that we use here to actually make mostly ritual application offerings for our clients, and then we have a few around that we use for breaking up roots and berries and different things when we're building our handcrafted tinctures. And sometimes we do lean into the modern mortar and pestle, which is the coffee bean grinder. If we're doing a ton of volume, it's just not practical, and physically most people would be unable, myself included, to grind for that long and do that much volume. But when you are doing a working for yourself, a small working with a smaller amount of herbs, this is a very, very powerful way to do it. Even if you just start the process in the mortar and pestle to build that petition, that invocation, and that energy, and then you finish the work in a coffee grinder, totally okay. But having that mortar and pestle time is transformative, and it is a ritual, a transcenduction in and of itself, one that I cannot recommend enough. So if you have a mortar and pestle, I invite you to get it off the shelf, rinse it off, get rid of the dust, and reassess your relationship with that tool. If you don't have one, jump online, go visit a local herb shop or apothecary or kitchen store, and start checking them out, see if there's one that you want to bring home. Let me know how you work with this tool in the comments. I'd love to hear what you all are up to. For folks on Patreon, we've got some super fun courses and advanced classes coming in our October calendar, so look for that. If you want to join us over there, there's a link in the comments below. You can just go right to this address right here. And until next Friday, take care.